Hey everybody, what's up? It's Golden Lady Shy. Yesterday I made the part 2 of beginning to work with spirits, so today I promise part 3. So for today's video I just wanted to share the don'ts or the things that I would not recommend when one is beginning to talk to your spirits, work with your spirits. So a quick recap. The first video I talked about starting to take that mindset of wanting to get more in tune and develop your senses, and that we can do that, through meditation, through being aware, through symbolic thought, so a couple of other things. And I talked about beginning to venerate and spend time with and begin to get to know your ancestors, and then your spirit guides. And then in the next video, we talked about building a relationship, getting to know which spirits, are kind of like drawing you to them, or that you are kind of being drawn to, and how to go about starting to build and grow a relationship with spirits. So I just wanted to go over this quick video and just share, like I said, some of the don'ts or the things that are not recommendable excuse me, when you're working with the spirit world. So the first one I spoke about in part 2, which was keeping everything separate. If you have a limited amount of living space, I completely understand, and trust me, your spirits understand as well. The best thing that you can do is always be upfront with them. Let them know that you want to create a space for them, but let them know your limitations. But most of the time, and in fact, I've never had an issue. The spirits understand completely. Even if you're in a place where you can't have altars up, even if you kind of have to take an altar down and put the things away in a safe spot, and then when you're gonna, speak with your spirits, you remantle the altar and rebuild it. That's completely understandable, okay? But one of the don'ts, the things that you shouldn't do, is mixing all of the spirits that you're talking about, that you're talking to on one altar. And let me give you an example. So if I was to come into your home and see that your altar, you had your ancestor altar, you have some of your loved ones who have passed pictures up there, and then you have, a statue of the Santa Muerte up there, and then you have something for Yemaya, you know what I mean? And you're just having all these spirits all together. Like I mentioned in the previous video, a lot of the spirits, they will work together. There are some who will, but a majority of the time, especially with La Santa Muerte and especially with Orisha, they want to be kept completely separate. So have a completely separate space, a small space where you venerate them, where you go to leave their offerings, okay? So don't, mix them all together, or don't try and mix currents. And when I say current, I mean, if you're drawn to Goetia and you want to work with the spirits from the Goetia, and then you're also drawn to, let's say, Ifa, that's fine, but you need to keep the spirits from the Goetia and the Orisha completely separate, because they don't have anything to do with each other. Or if you were working, or if you're, going through the path in Ifa and you're interested in voodoo, Haitian voodoo, you should keep the Loa and the Orisha completely separate, okay? So there's a lot of spirits that may share the similar qualities or sound like it's the exact same spirit in different currents. Like in voodoo is Papa Legba. People think that, or they try to equate that with Elegua, and that's not the case. They're different entities, so to speak. So keep everything separate. Keep the currents that you're working separate. Keep your altars separate, okay? Another don't is, I would say, don't go without cleansing, okay? So it's very important, just like you cleanse your physical body. My mentor, I grew up learning in this practice that cleansing your home and yourself spiritually is just as important, if is more important than cleansing yourself, physically. It's the same thing. So just as you wouldn't go, 2-3 days without bathing and all, you're not going to go 2 or 3 days without, cleansing your home. So I spoke about cleansing your home in another video, but just to recap, saging is good, but you also can put down sea salt, cascarilla, agua florida. You can make a floor wash and cleanse your home that way. So that's very important to do that, and also sweeten your home and put, burn yerba buena and incense and bring that blessing after you've cleansed, after you put down the protection, bring that blessing in. So don't forget to do that, definitely. And another thing, because when you start opening yourself up and you start meditating and you start speaking to spirits and you start venerating your ancestors and educating yourself about different currents and speaking to different spirits, your home is kind of like, it's almost like it has a neon sign on it that says, kind of that spirits are welcome there. Not that it has a neon sign, but just for lack of a better description, your home becomes like kind of a beacon of light, and you become a beacon of light, and spirits are kind of like drawn, like, okay, who is this? She's interested in talking to us. And you don't want to be open up your home to any other spirits besides the spirits that you're meant to speak with. So the spirits that you have, you've spoken to, that you want to speak with, that you're aware of. So make sure to cleanse, put down that protection. Definitely something that I do. Like I mentioned in the other video, I say a prayer to San Miguel Arcangel because he's really awesome with protection. But yeah, and once you have that protection, just stand strong in that. Know that your spirits have you. Know that your ancestors have your back. And be strong in that, and don't be afraid, okay? Which brings me to my next don't let fear overrun you. Fear is a very, very powerful emotion, and it can completely ruin your life. And I've seen people, there are things in once you start working with spirits or opening yourself up to that, it can be how can you say this, you can be a little nervous or something once you become aware of presences that are there that aren't naturally seen, with the natural eye, or once you're educated and things like that, and you understand kind of how things work in the spirit world, or that there are spirits, or it can be just don't be afraid of that. And the thing that I always remember that got me not to be afraid is to understand that before I acknowledged the presence of those spirits, they were there. And long after I'm gone, they're still going to be spirits. So, if they are there, as long as I'm putting down protection and I'm cleansing myself and I'm, living the way that I feel, I'm not opening myself up to negativity, I'm not going to live in fear. And if I do sense that, if there is some type of negativity or like a heaviness, I know, like I mentioned in the other videos, you're very powerful. You're the most powerful, magical, spiritual tool that you have is yourself. And you're very extraordinarily empowered, more than you give yourself credit for, more than you even realize. So number one, once you realize that and you start working with your ancestors and you start putting down your protection, you stand strong in yourself and you're not afraid of other negative energies that might just be around. You're not opening yourself up to that, and you're not going to have to, worry as much. So, which brings me to my next point. Even though you don't have fear, don't do foolish things. Don't do disrespectful things to the spirit world. As I mentioned in another video, in a previous video, the same way that you would treat a friend, the same way that you would treat a business associate, treat your spirits in the same, manner. Don't always be calling upon them to ask for, nonsense, or to ask for foolishness, or to ask for things that you could otherwise get for yourself, or to ask for things all the time at all. Just sometimes, create a dialogue with them and learn from them. And once you do that, then you can kind of go towards making petitions or asking for assistance, whether it's with jobs or working on your trauma that you've had in the past. There's a lot of spirits that can be super helpful. I mean, just amazing with helping you with a ton of different facets in life. But you have to build that relationship first, okay? So even though you're not fearing them, and you're not fearing, like something crazy is going to happen or something. You still have to have a healthy respect and understand that it's not a joke, it's not a game, that spirits are real, and that these entities and these currents are very powerful. So don't go around, sticking your nose in things. I don't like the term people say where they say dabbling. I've never liked that term because I feel like if you're going to look into something and educate yourself, but you're going to know and have that intuition to know if you should even be involving yourself in that or not. You know what I mean? And if you are going to involve yourself in it, then approach it respectfully. Like I said, educate yourself about the current, about where it came from. Speak to leaders in that area, seek knowledge, seek wisdom in that area. Don't just don't just get on the internet and say, oh, I want to, get my ex back, or I want to win, get a really good paying job. So what demon can help me with that? And then just look up a spell and copy and paste, on from Google some spell, and then start calling some demon king, asking. That's not a good idea for someone who's a novice, who's a beginner, who hasn't even built a relationship with their ancestors yet. So, like I said, even though you don't have fear, don't be ignorant and don't be stupid. Sorry to use that word, but don't be stupid. Don't go calling on things that you don't really have that much knowledge of, or you're not sure if you should or not. And once you are going to call on a spirit, if you do want to work, with those entities and in those currents, make sure that you're doing it respectfully, that you're doing it, safely. So that's what I would say. That would be my advice of the don'ts, the do's and don'ts when you're working with the spirit world. If you approach healthy, respectfully, if you stay strong in your own power, and you lead a healthy lifestyle each day, you're not trying to, like I said, thirsty out there, trying to get spirits to solve your problems, or just trying to look for spells or something, you know what I mean? That's not healthy. You have to, and once you start walking a spiritual path, your spirit guides will start leading you into making healthier and better decisions. And so a lot of things in your life, or old habits, or maybe old friends, things that didn't serve you anymore, will start falling away, okay? So those things will happen. But like I said, it always comes from approaching the spirits from a respectful, relationship. Another thing is to also remember too, if you do make a promise, like if you say, oh, if you help me with this, I will give you, an offering of, whatever. Just make sure, do your best to carry through on that. And life gets in the way, and most of the time the spirits understand. But just make sure that you're always keeping an open dialogue, letting them know. And another thing that's very important is to ground yourself. So after you do all these great things like meditating, whatever else you're interested in, just make sure that you go see a movie, that you go take a walk, that you call up a friend. Always keep your life balance. Don't go to where it's a fine line, because you should continue to stay open and want to hear from spirit, and that will take place. Just don't forget the things that you need to do, the responsibilities that you have, and to the things in your life and the people in your life, because that matters. And in the end of the day, your spirit guides and your spirits are here alongside you, like I mentioned, to assist you in walking this path and that you've been given. So you need to walk that path that you've been given as well. Celebrate birthdays, go out, have fun, do your job, do the things that you need to do, mop the floor, don't give up those things, just because you're you're leading this spiritual life, okay? And another thing that I wanted to mention in this video, in case people were curious, is also when you're beginning to work with spirits, once you've set up the altar, once you're, meditating and you're trying to communicate with the spirits, a couple of different ways that you can begin to actually speak a little more directly is you can use divination. So divination is pretty much what you would call, in the scope of magic, divination is the information getting process, okay? So divination allows us to see get information that we can use to help us make better choices, to help give us a better perspective. And I want to make my next video about that, but I wanted to say a couple of the different ways that you can use to speak with your spirits. You can purchase a pendulum, or you can make your own. So a pendulum could be like a ring on the end of a chain, or you can purchase your own, and that will allow you to begin to get yes or no answers. And like anything else, you have to cleanse all your spiritual tools. So right when you get it, sage it, put your intent, put agua florida, cascarilla, whatever you need to put on there, and intend that only the certain spirit that you want to speak with, if that's how you want to do it, is going to come through. And then you can begin using that. You can also begin to learn tarot. So I know I give some tarot tutorials, and in the future would like to teach more about tarot to people, because that's also another way that your spirit guides, that your higher self, that your ancestors can speak to you through tarot cards and help you kind of gain perspective. And another way that you can basically communicate with them. So my next video will be about different types of divination and divination itself. So if that's something that you're interested in, look forward to that coming tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for this video. I hope you've enjoyed this 3-part series of working with spirits. Visit tarotsolutions.etsy.com for a reading or a customized candle, and follow on IG at tarotlife, LYFE. Everybody have a wonderful night. Ashe.